No more packets.
Next month.
Next month, no more packets, huh?
So we're having a party at your house
Yes.
for February. We'll just have this rolling cocktail.
Hopefully we're not on.
I was turning to. It'll be the third one, right? So it'll be on the 21st. That's the
I think you can say it. Thanks. Excellent. I'm going to have my screen up, and then I'm going to have my note paper, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm never going to use this. No, it's not. Thank you. We have a quorum. I'm going to start the meeting. Good afternoon. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the City of Coral Gables Historic Preservation Board. We are residents of Coral Gables and are charged with the preservation and protection of historic or architecturally worthy buildings, structures, sites, neighborhoods, and artifacts, which impart a distinct historical heritage of the city. The board is comprised of 9 members, 7 of whom are appointed by the commission, 1 by the city manager, and the 9th is selected by the board and confirmed by the commission. 5 members of the board constitute a quorum, and 5 affirmative votes are necessary for the adoption of any motion. Lobbyist registration. Any person who acts as a lobbyist pursuant to the City of Coral Gables Ordinance Number 2006-11 must register with the city clerk prior to engaging in lobbying activities or presentations before city staff, boards, committees, and/or the city commission. A copy of the ordinance is available in the office of the city clerk. Failure to register and provide proof of registration shall prohibit your ability to present to the Historic Preservation Board on all applications under consideration this afternoon. A lobbyist is defined as an individual, corporation, partnership, or other legal entity employed or retained, whether paid or not, by a principal who seeks to encourage the approval, disapproval, adoption, repeal, passage, defeat, or modifications of any ordinance, resolution, action, or decision of any city commissioner, any action, decision, recommendation of the city manager, any city board or committee, including but not limited to quasi-judicial advisory board, trust, authority, or council, or any action, decision, or recommendation of city personnel during the time period of the entire decision-making process on the action, decision, or recommendation which foreseeably will be heard or reviewed by the city commission or a city board or committee, including but not limited to quasi-judicial advisory board, trust, authority, or council. Presentations made to this board are subject to the city's false claims ordinance, chapter 39 of the City of Coral Gables City Code. I now officially call the Coral Gables Historic Preservation Board meeting of December 14th to order. The time is 4:08. Present today are on my left, Mr. Silva, Mr. Ehrenhaft, Mr. Maxwell, and on my right, Ms. Spain, Mr. Durana, Ms. Rolando, and Mr. Gillis, and Cesar Garcia Pons. Approval of minutes. I see that we don't have them. Okay, so we'll move it on to the next meeting. We'll capture those. Regarding ex parte communications, please be advised that this board is a quasi-judicial board and the items on the agenda are quasi-judicial in nature, which requires board members to disclose all ex parte communications. An ex parte communication is defined as any contact, communication, conversation, correspondence, memorandum, or other written or verbal communication that takes place outside a public hearing between a member of the public and a member of a quasi-judicial board regarding matters to be heard by the quasi-judicial board. If anyone has made any contact with a board member when the issue comes before the board, the member must state on the record the existence of the ex parte communication, the party who originated the communication, and whether the communication will affect the board member's ability to impartially consider the evidence to presented regarding this matter. Does anybody at this time wish to express an ex parte communication? We can also do it at the time of the item. None. Deferrals. Ms. Paranas, are there any deferrals, any items on the agenda that have been deferred? None. Swearing in. If any persons in the audience will be testifying today, please rise and be sworn in. If you're going to be speaking on an item, please rise and be sworn in. Anyone on Zoom, if you want to be sworn in, you need to be on camera.
Anyone on camera?
Yeah, they're getting them now. Great. Okay, so we have a number of items on the agenda. We're going to take the first item first. This is local historic designation, case file LHD 2023-008. Consideration of the local historic designation of the property at 753 Minorca Avenue, legally described as Lot 29 and the west half of Lot 28, Block 25, Coral Gables, Section B, according to the plat thereof, as recorded in Plat Book 5 at page 111 of the Public Records of Dade County, Florida. Somebody from staff are going to present this item?
IT, can we have the presentation up, please?
The property at 753 Minorca Avenue is before you for consideration for designation as a local historic landmark. The single-family residence was designed in 1926 by architect C.K. Bayless. The application was submitted by the owner. As per Article 8, Section 8-103 of the Coral Gables Zoning Code, criteria for designation of historic landmarks, A local historic landmark must have significant character, interest, or value as part of the historical, cultural, archaeological, aesthetic, or architectural heritage of the city, state, or nation. For designation, a property must meet one of the criteria outlined in the code. 753 Minorcan Avenue is eligible as a local historic landmark based on 3 criteria. Historical cultural significance, criteria 4. It exemplifies the historical, cultural, political, economic, or social trends of the community. Architectural significance, criteria 1. It portrays the environment and era of history characterized by one or more distinctive architectural style. And criteria 2. It embodies those distinguishing characteristics of an architectural style or period or method of construction. (753) Minorca Avenue is located in Coral Gables Section B, a residential single-family home neighborhood north of the Granada Golf Course. It sits on an interior lot on the north side of the street. Coral Gables was originally conceived as a suburb of Miami and attracted investors from across the nation during the South Florida real estate boom of the 1920s. Merrick drew from the Garden City and City Beautiful movements of the 19th and 20th century to create his vision for a fully conceived Mediterranean-inspired city, which is now considered one of the first modern planned communities in the United States. Nationally acclaimed landscape architect Frank Button drew the first comprehensive maps of Coral Gables in 1921 and 22, one of which is on the left of this slide. The initial construction in Coral Gables was concentrated in sections A through D, which were located near Merrick's Plantation in Section A and in direct vicinity of the Granada Golf Course. As you can see from the plat map of Section B on the right, Merrick offered both larger lots near the golf course and smaller lots to the north and east of the course. Lots in Section B were first offered for sale in December 27, 1921. The red arrow points to the location of 753 Minorca Avenue. Nelson Boyce hired architect Charles C.K. Bayless to design the home at 753 Minorca Avenue in the summer of 1926. Bayless was a building inspector in Miami and a staunch enforcer of permitting procedures and of tropical withstanding building standards. It has been intimated that Merrick encouraged Bayless to design in Coral Gables as he brought added safety cachet to the city. While most of Bayless's architectural work was on Miami Beach, as he specialized in tropical storm construction, he did design about a dozen homes in Coral Gables in 1925 and 1926. Boyce was a noted contractor, and in less than a year after completion of the home, he applied for an owner-builder permit to expand the garage, including the servants' quarters. While it's not included in the permit description, it seems he also added the covered terrace over the front porch, as seen in the pictures on the right of the slide. (753) Minorca Avenue was constructed during the land boom era, where homes were built almost exclusively in the Mediterranean Revival style, in accordance with founder George Merrick's vision for a cohesively designed city. Merrick chose this type of architecture since he felt it best harmonized with South Florida's climate and lifestyle. The home at 753 Minorca Avenue honors Merrick's vision. Built over a crawl space to provide ventilation and separation from the high water table, the home has thick masonry walls to aid in keeping the home cool, along with light-colored textured stucco exterior walls which reflect the sun's heat. Varied casement windows and porch features were arranged to provide much-needed cross-ventilation and light in this tropical environment. As described in the designation report, the home and its auxiliary structure exhibits many additional character-defining features of the Mediterranean Revival style, such as its projecting and recessed planes, the rectilinear massing and floor plan, variety of roof types, with low-pitched roofs clad in barrel tile and flat roofs with parapets, a porte cochere with arch openings, slender corner chimney, a prominent front gable triangular vent, decoratively grouped round vents, a balcony supported by corbels, a covered terrace, and the exposed rafters and curved rafter tails. The home at 753 Minorca Avenue was designed as the three-bedroom home with a detached one-story garage near the northwest corner of the lot. The garage was accessed through a two-story porte-cochere along the west facade of the home. Along the east facade was a one-story covered front porch whose street-facing arches sprung from the central twisted column. At the rear northeast corner was a screened sleeping porch. A copy of the original permit has not been located to date. A historic photo dated December 29, 1926, as seen here, along with other written descriptions, document the original home. Besides Boyce's early alterations, there were two other notable additions. In 1951, architect H. George Fink expanded the servants' quarters to include a covered porch. And in 1994, there was a major alteration campaign. Architect Lee Moldup was hired to design several additions and alterations. As seen in the figure in the upper right, these included a one-story shed roof addition along the east facade and a two-story gable roof addition to the rear of the home. It also included a two-story addition along the west facade with a covered terrace on the first floor. This addition enclosed the rear of the porte-cochere and blocked access to the original garage. The front facade has retained its massing since 1927. Its narrow bays project and recede with differing roof types and heights in a classic Mediterranean Revival-style manner. The porte-cochere bay and the slender chimney rising from the corner of the projecting central bay are also features of the style. Additionally, the decoratively arranged vents are character-defining features. A prominent triangular vent sits in the gable end of the projecting central bay, and over most of the original second-story windows are groupings of round vents. The exposed rafter tails and carved rafter tails are also common features of the style, as are the variety of recessed casement windows with projecting sills. Exterior alterations performed in 1994 include the installation of a new front entry that includes the removal of the arched opening and associated twisted column for the double front door. The arch opening on the east facade was also removed and a window inserted. On the second story, a large new masonry balustrade was installed. A matching balustrade also replaced the original metal railing on the adjacent second floor balcony. The original balcony corbels were retained. On the east facade, the original core 1926 portion is flat-roofed with parapets. The second-story groupings of round vents further distinguish the original portion of the home from the two 1994 additions on this facade. The 1994 additions are the one-story shed roof bay tucked in the corner of the L of the original home and marked here as A, and B, the two-story gabled roof bay to the rear of the home. These additions are in keeping with the original home, but are easily distinguished as later additions. The rear of the home is comprised of the 1994 two-story addition and the auxiliary building that is joined to the home by the gable roof walkway that was also part of the 1994 campaign. The auxiliary building is comprised of the original garage at the west end, the 1927 servants' quarters addition at the center, and Fink's 1951's covered porch. As seen in the photos on the right, the garage door was removed and the opening reduced for a residential door. The stucco of the infill is slightly different than the original stucco, and hence the outline of the garage door is easily discernible. As seen in the photo on the left, Fink's porch was enclosed with windows and a sliding glass door. The porch's carved rafter tails was retained. On the west side facade, the front is the original two-story flat-roof porte-cochere bay. In 1994, a two-story addition, denoted here as C, was placed at the rear of the porte-cochere and the rear arch infilled. As seen in these photos, at the northern end of the 1994 addition is a covered barbecue area whose north and west facades replicate the rounded corner arch of the original porte-cochere. In conclusion, built in 1926, 753 Minorca Avenue is amongst the earliest homes in the city and stands as a testament to founder George Merrick's vision for Coral Gables. Merrick strove to create a cohesively designed Mediterranean-inspired city. Designed in the Mediterranean Revival style, the property at 753 Minorca Avenue is an example of the homes built during the founding years of the city. The home was designed by architect C.K. Bayless, who was a staunch enforcer of permitting procedures and tropical withstanding building standards. Merrick reportedly welcomed his design approach and professional standards. The property had significant additions in 1994. However, it clearly remains a Mediterranean Revival style home built in the city's initial developmental period in the 1920s and maintains sufficient integrity for designation. It has retained this historic integrity for nearly a century and significantly contributes to the historic fabric of the city of Coral Gables. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the local historic designation of the property at 753 Minorca Avenue based on its historical, cultural, and architectural significance.
Thank you. Anything additional from staff? Is the owner present and/or wish to speak? You don't have to, but you can. Thank you so much. All right. Just checking with the board. Anybody have any ex parte communications on this? No. We did receive a number of public comments distributed by staff. Have there been any additional public comments provided on this topic? Any additional public comments other than what you provided us today? No. Thank you. I'm going to open it up to public comment. Does anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor of the case? Anybody online? Thank you. Anybody wish to speak in opposition to this case? Anybody online? Okay, closing public hearing, coming back to the board. Any discussion? Mr. Maxwell?
Move acceptance.
Is there a discussion before the motion? I want to give one chance. Okay, is there a motion, Mr. Maxwell?
Yeah, let me get a little closer here, excuse me. I'd like to move acceptance of this. Thank you for moving all around. On the basis of the move acceptance of 753 Minorca Avenue because it meets the three criteria for historical designation. Historical and cultural significance exemplifies the historical, cultural, political, economic, or social trends of the community, and for architectural significance portrays the environment in an era of history characterized by one or more distinctive architectural style and embodies those distinguishing characteristics of an architectural style or period, method, or of construction.
Is that the motion?
That's the motion.
Is there a second?
I would second.
Any discussion on the motion?
I have a question for staff.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Spain?
Is there a concern at all about the alterations to the front facade? I understand that the alterations in the back are but the removal of those two arches plus the twisted column and the removal of the railings and then the addition of the newer railings, 1994. I'm sure you discussed that.
We did discuss it, and we were under the, after reviewing the drawings, that it was all something that if someone wanted to restore back to the original condition, could be brought back.
Yeah, I would just add to that, the carport looks like it's also was transformed from squared corners to rounded, and the chimney has been altered as well. So wanted to point that out.
Yeah, the carport was modified in the 40s. The second picture did it. I share the same concerns about the balustrades. They're super heavy compared to the light railings. And then, of course, the entrance. I do think it does maintain significant characteristics of historic property, but hopefully, if and when the owners want to do renovations to the house or they sell it and somebody else wants to do it, they can bring it back and show us those beautiful railings and that great front door. Any further discussion? All right, can we call the roll?
Mr. Maxwell,
Yes.
Mr. Ehrenhaft,
Yes.
Mr. Durana,
Yes.
Mr. Gillis,
Yes.
Mr. Silva,
Yes.
Ms. Rolando. Yes. Ms. Spain,
Yes.
Mr. Garcia Pons.
Yes. Let's move on.
I just wanted to say, this was an owner-requested designation, so not that we were being presumptive or anything, but I did want to give them a landmark plaque.
All
right.
Yeah. Congratulations. Thank you. Let's take the next item. SCOA, case file, COA SP 2023-023, an application for the issuance of a special certificate of appropriateness for the property at 1207 Genoa Street, a local historic landmark, legally described as Lot 1, Block 34, Coral Gables, Granada Section revised, according to the plat thereof, as recorded in Plat Book 8 at page 113 of the Public Records of Miami-Dade County, Florida. The application requests design approval for additions and alterations to the residence and auxiliary structure and site work. A variance has been requested to allow an existing carport to be converted into an enclosed garage with a minimum interior width to be 8 feet 6 inches versus the 9 feet 0 inches as required by Article 10, Section 10-102A4C of the Coral Gables zoning code. Ms. Beddoes.
Yes. Anna Pernas, Historic Preservation Officer. The single-family home at 1207 Genoa Street was one of the 18 homes commissioned by Coral Gables founder George Merrick in 1923. The structure has had alterations and additions over the past century, but the historic character is intact, and the property was designated as a local historic landmark on June 26, 2023. The scope of work contained in the application includes a one-story addition to the rear of the residence, delineated by scoring the stucco, converting an existing carport to a garage and installation of carriage-style doors, raising the roof of the detached accessory building to align with the existing parapet, installation of impact-resistant windows and doors, full interior remodeling, including the removal of the interior fireplace. Extensive site work includes the installation of a new swimming pool, new paver motor court and front walkway, new septic tank, septic system, and new hardscape and landscape elements. In addition, a variance was requested to allow for an existing carport to be converted into an enclosed garage with a minimum interior width of 8 foot 6 inches versus the 9 foot that is required by Article 10, Section 102A4C of the Coral Gables zoning code. The carport has been altered over time and enclosed on two sides with the construction of a living room addition to the east and installation of new windows and enclosure of the openings on the north. The proposed garage doors mimic the look of the carriage-style doors that existed in the rear garage. The variance has been requested in order to retain the original carport opening and decorative Pecky cypress lintel visible in Figure 5. Staff supports the granting of the variance due to the as-built conditions of the residence. The residence is a designated historic landmark. The property has had alterations over time, and proposed changes to the building are an improvement and appropriate to the style of the structure. Staff recommends a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness with conditions noted, and a motion to approve to grant a variance to allow the existing carport to be converted into an enclosed garage. And
Thank
the
you.
applicant is here if they'd like to.
Does the applicant wish to speak or present anything? Please state your name, please, and your address.
Good afternoon, board members and guests. My name is Edwin Herrera. I'm with DG Architecture, the architect of the project. We had made a presentation. I apologize, it's my first time doing this. I'm not really sure how the process goes.
Just confirming you were sworn in earlier?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So we divided the presentation into three. The first one was the proposed restoration, addition, and remodel of the house. followed by the variance and why we're requesting it, and ending with the cottage application and what we feel we apply. That's just pictures showing you how the house is as of today. Here, we're trying to show you what we're trying to accomplish. So on the left is a picture from 1940s, and the picture as of today, how the house looks in the front. They unfortunately made a lot of concrete in the front of the house. We feel we want to bring back how it had, the hardscape with the wheel line of concrete and the walkway leading you directly into the front entrance. In the rear, we are proposing a pool, and the reason for the septic tank is because the existing septic tank has been dried out for 2 years, so obviously it's not working. Here we show you the changes we're making on the front and rear elevations. We want to keep the openings as they are. The only true change to the front is that rather than have those gates with the decorative elements that don't look as we feel to the status of the house, we wanted to add a carriage door and then bring back the original handrail in the middle porch because it has some iron bars which make it feel like a prison, and then modify the entrance door, again bringing back the character that the house had. In the rear, we really are just keeping how the house looks, just modifying the windows and doors, and bringing back the casements and the original mullion divisions and number. On the side, again, we are modifying 2 windows on the side, and we would keep a linear delineation just in case a future buyer wanted to bring the original window opening. On the carport, we were trying to bring back the original opening of the archway. Unfortunately, we were going to put a window because you can still kind of see how it's hard to tell from that picture, but later on you'll see that you can still tell where they blocked it off. And this is the other side, and you can see how the existing drawings, the original drawings, and our proposed drawings. Again, the main change is bringing back the casement windows with the mullion style. And we want to delineate, as Anna stated, the addition towards the back with a stucco line. And we also wanted to propose, the house has this flat roof parapet with double barrel tile roof. We wanted to do that across all sides of the house. And that's a new thing that we were proposing, again, to give character to the house and bring it back to restoring its beauty. This is just showing that all the calculations work, even with the addition, even with everything that we're proposing, with the hardscape, with the open space and green space. This is the modifications to the existing on the interior. Mainly the work is in the interior, just modifying the interior layout. Otherwise, on the outside, the windows, only 3 windows are being affected. And again, the proposed new floor plan, showing how the roof we're modifying. We're also going to fix a couple leaks that the house has. And we're raising the parapet on the auxiliary structure because they had an addition that was illegal in 1976. So we're going to legalize that and obviously restore it to its glory. This takes us to the variance and why we were looking to do the variance. As stated, the original carport used to be a pass-through, right? Because the auxiliary structure in the rear was the original garage. Through time and the additions that the house has gone through, it turned into an auxiliary storage. And the original carport didn't meet requirements, I feel, and that's why they added a little wing along the front so a car could actually park in there. And the wings I'm referring to is the picture on the right. You can tell these wing walls were added with the archway entry just for a car to be able to park in there. But even with these modifications that they made, the reality is that it doesn't meet the minimum requirements for a carport, because if you measure from that opening of the archway to where the steps are, it's only 15.8, and we need to be at 18. And the width of the carport actually does meet, but the issue was where the original carport opening with the wood lintel is only 8'2". So that's where the variance came from, right? And that they refer to that as only 98 inches. But truly, the carport is not 98 inches. It's 132 inches. So all we're really asking for is, rather than have the gates to the carport, for us to put a carriage door, again, to give character to the house, and bring back on the sides for the windows to have the beautiful archway as they were before. This will take us to the qualification for the cottage. Again, this is my understanding. I apologize if I misinterpreted. The first one is the stucco finish. The house has textured stucco and also does the auxiliary structure. They both show the same architectural styles and
Well, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, because the cottage designation happens at staff level. They don't review the
I'm
cottage.
sorry. Like I said,
So we could actually just move forward with the presentation, so there's no
Okay.
full-on confusion. But I appreciate it.
No, it's all right. Like I said, I didn't
Is
know.
that the last part of the presentation, the
Yeah,
cottage?
that's
Okay.
it.
Thank you so much. Any questions for staff or the applicant before we go to public
Yes.
comment? Mr. Gillis?
Okay, so standard 10, new additions and adjacent or related new construction shall be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property and its environment would be unimpaired. When I look at the entryway for both the entrance and the carport versus the 1923 and 1934 and 1971 images, the style above the carport and the entryway are totally altered.
Yeah.
Why aren't you bringing that back as part of this project?
So we have been working with the historical staff, and we've, back since May, and listening to their comments, and this is how we managed to both meet the needs of the owner, meet the needs of the the historical staff, and the architectural elements that we felt, or with them, were the most of value, right? The original carport, like you stated, opening is within the inside of the house. You can't see it anymore. And then the original entry to the home also was altered because it used to be a loggia, I believe. It was a covered space, which it was just covered with no air-conditioned space. And we, to answer your question, sorry, it's just what was the needs of the owner with the needs of the historical staff and the architectural elements.
And just to state, for the front opening, for the entryway, the way that the pattern was decided on for BOA was something that one of the images shows, you could kind of see like the screen in porch condition that had kind of like a railing to it. So that's why they chose a more glass opening with the configuration for the front entrance.
But it's the detail above that that's missing.
Oh, are you saying, the shed roof?
Oh, the shed roof portion? Maybe? That one wasn't original, so they were removing it.
No, what I'm looking at is on the staff report, Figure 1, west elevation, 1923, permit number 373. You can see that above the carport, there's probably like a cypress, actually on the other drawing, it shows it as a cypress beam, which was common among Fink's work, that he did details in cypress.
So that's that interior cypress that you're seeing on the inside of the garage now. The ones on the north elevation had already been removed and enclosed with windows. So you're seeing that those archways were similar to that kind of decorative wood lintel. And then the only one that's existing now is that one that's kind of behind the arched opening. It sits within the garage now, and that's where they're not meeting the 9 feet that's required because it projects into the now enclosed portion.
So that would be figure number 5 of the staff report?
Right, so figure 5. The arched opening was actually built in front of the original carport opening. So now that Pecky cypress lintel is on the interior.
That's what I'm trying to say.
That's what's weird,
Why
yeah.
aren't you removing the arched part to expose the original historic element?
If we remove that front archway, then we don't meet any.
You get a variance. You're already asking for a variance, right?
Let me ask you what's the internal length from the,
From where the original opening is to the back end of it, that's what you're asking. Okay,
Yes.
that is 13 feet.
But very few of these old carports, I've been in so many of them, I can tell you, very few of
Correct.
them
They're
meet
not gonna
these
meet.
standards.
Yeah,
So
they're not
that
gonna
wouldn't
meet.
be an unusual characteristic. I just think you're losing the style of the home by
Got
not
it.
going back to that. And I don't see how it would meet standard 10 because it says the essential form and integrity of the historic property and its environment would be unimpaired. To me, this is an example of how you have an alteration here that would be impairing that.
It's an existing condition that was considered as part of when the property was designated.
Right.
As not being a major modification, that it lost its historic character. So this is something that's there now and has been since.
But if we allow them to enclose it now, is that ever going to come back? That's why I think as part of this project, it should be part of that. That fine, I don't have a problem with them enclosing that, but why wouldn't it have to go back to the original configuration? Standard 5, distinctive features, finishes, and construction techniques or examples of craftsmanship that characterize a historic property shall be preserved. So this isn't a feature of the historic. This is something that was added much later that detracts from it. I mean, the entryway, I can live with that if you're saying it's behind it.
Right, that's that image in figure 5.
So
There's no way you could accomplish that to meet the needs of the homeowners?
I guess nobody really asked us before. The reality is we were not going to remove that lintel detail or the original block wall opening. We would conserve it. All we were looking to do really is just put the garage door and the reasons being for uplift situations, to try to secure the house and make it feel more, as time progresses, hurricanes do get stronger. So that was our concern for the garage door, but I would have to request, the needs of the client to answer that question.
Mr. Gillis, Mr. Maxwell, and then Mr. Durana.
So, so the garage, so the carport is now intended to be used as a garage and nothing else?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Miss, if you'd like to come up and speak, please do. You need to speak from we'd happy to have your input.
If we could please swear her in briefly, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I haven't sworn. So. Yes, I swear.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. So, yes, I am one of the owners of the house. So this house has been through so many rounds of review with the historical staff and also with the Board of Architects, and also to try to fit our needs. So the reality is that we bought the house in the condition that it is. Mm-hmm. We haven't made any change without being priorly authorized. So the situation with the carport is that it in reality is no longer a carport. It's a hybrid. It already has been enclosed in one of the walls, so that has been really destroying the structure. When we remediated the roof, we encountered a lot of issues. And one of the situations that the architect and the staff has discovered is that because it has been exposed to the elements and also there is not a way for the air to flow outside, it really is creating an unstable condition. And we have a letter from the engineer explaining that situation, which is more technical than that can make sense right now. But the thing is this, right now, that is not a carport, that is not a garage. The length that it has, it doesn't allow us to park a car. You cannot really use it for the purpose that it has. Now, what we're trying to do right now is move those stairs that are not compliant. So at least the carport is long enough so we can fit a car, and we're moving the stairs to the side without reducing the space any longer. So the car is not complying either lengthwise or the width. So we are remediating part of it. We can make use of it as a garage. And that's the reason we would love to keep the historical features of the house. If you ask me, if we could go back to the lintel, that would be awesome for me. But that doesn't allow the space to park a car. We don't have any extra parking spaces. And I understand all the houses need to have a garage or a parking space. It wouldn't have. The way it is, it doesn't exist. The carport already has doors in the front. If you see, there is a double door. So if I would just go ahead and close it, it would be a garage. But I really want to protect my house from the elements. I want to put an impact door, and we want to make use of that space. So we've been working back and forth, trying to figure out what is the best solution to this. I think we've been very, very flexible, and Anna has been beyond great and accommodating and advising, and we really appreciate that. And this is the best design that we could come up. We want to keep the lintel. We're going back and doing, again, the arch window so we can at least mirror what the house used to be. And the door that we're proposing, it mirrors what was supposed to be like the garage in the back. So we're bringing some of those features back. So we would really, really appreciate if you can understand our needs, help us to move forward, because we bought this house almost a year ago and we haven't been able to even put a rock on it. And we really need to start building. So if you could somehow look into all this process and understand what has been the situation, we would really appreciate it, because we just want to make a home in Coral Gables and we've been unable to even start the construction.
Thank you.
Thank you. So you...
Jessica Canelos.
I'm sorry.
Canelos.
All right, so you intend to keep it you intend to maintain it as a garage.
Yes.
Use it as a garage, and you're not going to change that lintel and the header, nor the stem walls that come out.
No. No, we're going to keep the lintel. We're just going to close the door because we cannot fit a car right now for the length.
It's going to
but
be a very
it's-
narrow car.
It's narrow, but
Yes.
we can make it work.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I can buy a Prius if I need to.
thank you.
Mr. Durana.
I mean, I understand, I like the lintel, I like the idea of it, but one thing we're not also thinking about is if they do demo the archway and go back to that lintel and try to enclose it, I don't think you can get a door that's gonna follow the contour of that
It's
detail.
also,
So
it's
so
not
at
long
that point,
enough.
you're gonna end up, closing up that lintel and it's just not gonna look nice. I think it's a better option to make sure it's preserved.
But you could put one
Make sure
behind.
they don't, if we can put a note in there that just says, lintel has to remain as is, and I think it's fine, as long as it stays preserved and you can see it, for the future.
Yeah, and that is something that the Board of Architects also explore, and we went and tried to look for different models of doors and all that. They don't
Yeah,
exist
they
in the
won't
market.
make in that profile, yeah.
Thank you. And again, the length between the lintel and the back wall is how long? 13 feet.
Yeah.
Mr. Silva.
When I agree with Mr. Gillis's concern about kind of restoring that lintel. But that being said, so two things. Number one, were that to be restored and that front demolished and you keep that as the new exterior door, you're right, it's not a functional garage. You're at the way I see it, it's 13.6, I think is what you got on the drawings.
Yeah.
So it's just not long enough to get a car in there. It's a problem. And again, this house was designated with this addition, so we have to recognize that. To me, adding a door to that already existing and already added arch is not really changing the historic fabric. I would love to see it restored, but it's just not going to be a functional garage. I did have a question for staff and for Mr. Ogmorton. The variance that we're voting on, so this is already a non-conforming carport, right? The carport by itself doesn't conform to the zoning code. Why is there, just because they're enclosing it and creating a garage, that's triggering a variance even though it's already non-conforming?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff of the applicant before we go to public comment?
That was my concern that you brought up about the variance, because there's something in the code that says you shouldn't make a structure more non-conforming, but since this is now going to be a different use, this has been to zoning, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and they didn't say anything about the kitchen in the auxiliary structure? Wow, okay.
Well, that's where the cottage
Kicks in.
designation, but even the kitchen.
Kitchen.
Yeah, no, but
No, okay.
Thank you, Ms. Spain. Let me open it up to public comment. Thank you very much for the applicants. Thank you. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak in favor or opposition of this case? Anybody on Zoom? Okay, closing public comment, bringing it back to the board. Any discussion on this item? Not questions for staff, any discussion amongst ourselves? Mr. Maxwell.
The garage, I think, all of us would like to see the garage restored, okay? But the reality is that they can't fit a car into it, all right? Because it's been redone. However, I think they're taking really positive steps in order to maintain that. So in the future, it could be restored. And should at some time you not want to use it as a garage, take that off and we'd all be happy to give you another room, with that. So good luck with you.
Great. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Ms. Spain,
I'd like to make a motion to approve with the conditions noted above. Do you have any issue with the conditions that they put on this? Okay.
noted in the staff report.
In the staff report, application for the issuance of a special certificate of appropriateness for the property at 1207 Genoa Street, a local historic landmark, and approve the issuance of a special certificate of appropriateness.
All right, we have a motion for 2 items.
Second.
Second by Mr. Maxwell. Any conversation?
It includes all the staff requests 1 through 6?
Yes.
Okay.
If it doesn't, it is meant to.
I believe it does. It captures
Thank
those
you.
6.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Let's call the roll.
Ms. Spain,
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell,
Yes.
Mr. Aaronhaft,
Yes.
Mr. Durana,
Yes.
Mr. Gillis,
Yes.
Mr. Silva,
Yes.
Ms. Rolando,
Yes.
Mr. Garcia Ponce.
Yes.
Like to
There,
make another motion?
please.
I'd like to make a motion to grant a variance to allow an existing carport to be converted into an enclosed garage with a minimum interior width to be 8 feet 6 inches versus the 9 feet as required by Article 10, Section 10-102A4C of the Coral Gables zoning code.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion, any further discussion? Let's call the roll.
Ms. Spain,
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell,
Yes.
Mr. Aaronhaft,
Yes.
Mr. Durana,
Yes.
Mr. Gillis,
Yes.
Mr. Silva,
Yes.
Ms. Rolando. Yes. Mr. Garcia Ponce.
Yes. Before we go to the next case file, I had a request to perhaps move the discussion item up, which is the questions about the city lighting, street lighting. One of our members has to go. I'm going to take the temperature. Can we take 20 minutes to have that conversation now, or do we want to put it towards the end and keep going with the agenda? Okay, no.
I have none.
Okay, so let's, we're going to take the discussion item that's on the agenda, that was on the online agenda with regards to the streetlights. It is something that Mr. Maxwell presented before the city commission this week, and there was some action by the city commission. I would like to take, again, only about 15 minutes at this time, so we don't hijack the entire meeting. Maybe ask the historic preservation officer to come up to the dais and let us know what happened at the commission meeting before Mr. Maxwell.
So the city commission took action on Tuesday on asking for FPNL to stop any work for the replacement of the fiberglass silver light poles within the North Gables section. So that has been communicated to FPL at this point and is now been halted. The process was that there was an FPL contract to replace these lights, and the replacement started, and there was new black posts being installed. The posts are taller, different material. They're made of concrete, and are FPLs to maintain and manage and all of that. So for now, it's on hold. It's on hold for the North Gables, so there's more discussions with FPL of options of what can be done, or if anything can be done. And we'll have an update with staff maybe later on, and we could have Public Works if we need them to in a later meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Benes. Yeah, I think this is definitely going to come back, but again, it was something that's timely. Mr. Maxwell, do you have any thoughts or comments?
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to give everybody a little bit of background on the history of the poles the silver poles that we have here now and that are being removed. Not all of them are fiberglass, by the way. The poles were a very long community effort. Ms. Spain, you probably remember this. Ms. Rolando, you probably do too. You've been here for a long time, as Mr. Aaronhaft does, and Mr. Silva, I'm not sure. But the 80s began a lengthy search for correct pole street lighting to be placed throughout Coral Gables because we were looking to put in street lighting all around the city. Okay, as most of you know, the Whiteway lights were special. They were in a small part of the city, but the majority of the lights were, as you see, those silver ones in appearance. There was extensive community input to this. And when I say extensive, this process went on for years, okay? For those of you that have ever worked with FP&L or you've ever worked with McDonald's, the first thing is we can't do that. It's not in our book. The second thing is, well, we'll look and see. And the third time you say no, we'll find it and we'll put it in and we'll do it like you want it, okay? So apparently there was a new agreement with FP&L sometime about 3 to 5 years ago. I'm not sure exactly when, but I was told something like that. FP&L, by the way, installed all the streetlights that you see, okay? And they started on Segovia. Sarah Anderson, who many of us knew, was the leader of this, and Mayor Hartnett put her in charge of this. Arva Park, Sally Jude, all the people in preservation were involved in this, okay? The original street, there are at least 2 original streetlights on Coral Way adjacent to the City Hall. 2. And guess what they look like? Exactly like the ones that are being removed. And they're the height of the ones that are being removed as well. So the question really comes about 2 things. 1, process. Nobody in the community knew anything about this. Okay, that's the first thing. 2, historical accuracy. This is what we sell, this is what we are, not just this board, but our city. This is a historic city. And we have a historic city plan that has been designated historic. And it's not just the street pattern, it's the urban fabric. The silver streetlights are considered to be the city standard streetlight. And if you go look on Ms. Anderson's obituary, and sadly she's passed away, it says city standard streetlights. This was a huge effort over many, many years. The lights that were installed are replicas because we don't have the benefit of having many of these lights left, but we do have several of the originals out, so we can prove this. All right. So I brought this up to the City Commission, and I recommended several things. 1, that they stop immediately. And they agreed to do that. But they didn't agree on where it should be stopped. You know, discussion was, north of Coral Way. Well, all we have to do is put up a map of the historic city, which we've designated, and there's a lot more of the area than just north of Coral Way. I can tell you that Granada has this beautiful necklace of diamond bright lights that frame the street elegantly. It's like wearing beautiful jewelry on our streets. The black lights, which are much taller, by the way, cannot be seen. They absolutely fall out. They're contrary to the design intention of the original city founders and what they originally put in. The process, going back to the process, I didn't know about this. I don't know that any of you knew about this. And when I contacted several people, it was like, what? So this is this sort of creeping, lack of process. I recommended to the council that they remand the item, they remand this to this board and to the Landmarks Preservation Board for study and research and recommendation, not just over the type of light, but where it should be and how that should be. They didn't take that full step yet, so I would like to offer 2 resolutions to this board, and should it decide to pass them, we'll pass that on to the City Commission for their further consideration. If I may, I'd like to read the first resolution. And by the way, it's all open to everyone's discussion and input because the soup always gets better with more things that we put in. So Resolution 1, to the City Commission, delegate to the Historic Preservation Board in collaboration with the Landmarks Preservation Board, supported by City Historic Preservation staff. I have this written down, you don't need to write it. To research, recommend to the Commission a city standard streetlight based upon historically accurate documentation known to have been installed during the city's development during the 1920s, and to recommend those areas of the city where said street lighting shall be located and maintained. My second recommendation would be, upon receipt and adoption of the Historic Preservation and Landmark Report, to adopt as the city's standard street light the recommended street light per the areas of the city recommended by this board. Those would be my two resolutions and recommendations to this board to consider.
Thank you, Mr. Maxwell. So before we act on any resolutions, Any thoughts or comments on the item? Again, this item is going to be at the next meeting. We've requested Public Works to be here. Staff is going to have more information. This was just a timely item, so Mr. Maxwell felt it was appropriate maybe to put something forward. Ms. Spain.
I believe that if you go onto the Florida Power and Light website and you figure out how you can get to the style of streetlights, that one of them is called Coral Gables. And that is that standard pole that you're talking about that sort of looks like the White Way lights, only it's not decorative. And do they not make that anymore? What happened that they're
My understanding is that it wasn't part of the catalog that was
I've seen it in the catalog.
recently, within the 5 years. I don't know.
Well, I've been retired for 5 years, but I will tell you
That's
that
when the agreement was signed.
Oh, so they just eliminated that? Because they had that as a
That's my
standard
understanding.
Florida Power and Light light that anybody could purchase, and it was called the Coral Gables design. I'm almost positive. I know that years ago, on Hardy Road, the French City Village wanted to put decorative lights there that were different, and so we had to go through Florida Power and Light and through their catalog, and I helped them do a different light for that neighborhood. But I don't understand why they're now taking those out. Are they don't want to maintain them, or they've fallen into just, I don't get it.
So
There was a 20-year agreement.
I would leave that, I think maybe Public Works should be here to answer that question. It's not really the
Right.
Historic Preservation Officer, but I think if you could please check on when the Coral Gables light was removed from their standard, that would be helpful information for the next
I
meeting.
may be remembering this wrong, but I'm sure I've seen that in the Florida Power and Light catalog. Because I was surprised that they were calling it the Coral Gables design. So anyhow, that's.
Mr. Ehrenhaft.
I too had noticed the changes because I circumnavigated North-South Greenway around the golf course and was stunned that within a very short period of time, the new ones were placed. Then the first thing that struck me was the height of them. And my first gut was they seem out of place because they're black, but they're also much too tall. And they're thin, tapered, and not elegant in a quiet way like the silver ones that are being removed. And then the height of them then went to my next concern, which was that they are down Alhambra, they're down Coral Way, they're up past my house and all the other houses on Country Club Prado. And those, and especially Coral Way, have extremely dense, beautiful, old-growth canopy, which should, and I can guarantee you, my concern is that FPL has no problem with coming and hat racking things and chopping holes in canopy to put a light in, okay? So those were my initial concerns that I was going to voice. I could not get to the meeting. I have a real problem with them, and I don't know who suggested it, whether it was the mayor or one of the commissioners, I can't remember, that they thought they were finding a balance in the discussion, and they said, okay, we'll stop it north of Coral Way. So what's going to happen? Are they going to then continue, all the streetlights are on the south side of Coral Way? That's south of Coral Way. So are those at risk? Are all the ones that go all the way down Granada for scores of blocks? Country Club Prado is at risk, and there are many other thoroughfares, I'm sure, that I'm not mentioning that are at risk. I think the pause, if staff or others could find a way to have further conversation outside of this meeting and to try to get them to pause it completely where they're standing, because
Right. So the project that's happening right now, just to be clear, is it's 140 poles that were installed between 1998 and 2002. and it's in 3 sections, Harlano and Woods.
Where?
Harlano and Woods, I believe, is this intersection. San Amaro, where I think there were some of the fiberglass poles, and then there were some areas of San Amaro that had no lights at all, and then the Granada Golf Course. So those are the 3 sections that are under, for this FPL contract that we're talking, that you're physically seeing right now. The ones,
This contract.
right,
I understand.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yes.
I understand, may I continue speaking? I understand there's a contract, okay? But I humbly suggest that even with respect to that project incorporating all of that, I think they should pause it all and get further informed discussion before they go forward with that. It's if they're allowed to do piecemeal and take large portions of the city and put these new tall black poles in, and then you'll get streets that are crossing each other, or you'll get a patchwork of different kinds of things. And I think that my colleague's suggestion is that we want a consistent light that speaks of the Gables.
I have another comment.
Before,
No.
Mr. Orlando. Mr. Orlando.
What really bothers me is that it didn't come to before this board first, because hardscape is such an integral part of our city. I mean, we're the city of pink sidewalks, and wouldn't you think, oh, light poles are such an essential element of what makes our city different. So I'm really shocked that the first, we pass on all kinds of stuff that is far less of a defining feature than
not shocked at all.
streetlights.
I'm not shocked at all.
Well, but I mean, what are we here for? And so I think this is kind of a wake-up call that we need to be paying attention to what Public Works is doing. I'm sure they're well-intentioned, that, it's not evil intent here, but people get really hysterical about streetlights in this town, and for good reason, because they're such a defining feature. And we buy enough streetlights that even if they're not in the catalog, they could be custom. I mean, people, and I think this would be a big contract. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Orlando.
I have one other.
No, there's somebody before.
Okay.
Just to make sure everyone knows, these are not historically designated lights. We'll get to that in a second. Mr. Silva.
I agree with all the comments made today about the lights. The unfortunate thing, right, is that I'm sure we're going to meet and they're going to come back and say we have a contract in place and these are already installed and maybe we can do something about the future ones. But I would remind everyone that there was an addition to City Hall that was under construction, right? There was a big outcry, and it was deemed to be not sensitive to City Hall, and that was overturned, right? And if we can overturn a building that was in construction, I think we can do the same for these
remember
lights,
that very well.
especially the lights that are already installed on the Greenway Golf Course, which is a really prominent thoroughfare in the city. That's one thing. The second thing is again, when we have this discussion, as Mr. Orlando said, this was not badly intentioned.
Right.
There are, I am sure, technical reasons. The light poles are taller because I'm sure they have to meet energy requirements, and they're doing a 1-for-1 pole replacement. So I'm sure they have brighter requirements for the streets, and because of that, the pole height is being driven higher, right? So there's always a solution to everything. We can add more poles, or we can change the lens or the light distribution of the thing. That's a technical discussion, but we need to fight for those things, and we cannot be disheartened.
Thank you, Mr. Silva. Ms. Spain and then Mr. Ernhaft.
Just very quickly, I would like to see what approval at the city commission level when that went and the wording of the item. Because they
FPL
were-
contract.
Of
For
the
the contract
Of the
renewal?
FPL contract. That's in place now. I would like to know when that went and what the wording was on the city commission agenda. And also, I was just going to remind people that, that the ones that they're taking out are not designated as historic. So I totally understand how Public Works would think it would be okay to remove them. They wouldn't think that they would have to bring it to us. And the third thing is, when developers come in with large projects, they sometimes want to put different lights, and I love that. I just have to say that the Villa Valencia that's near my house, they put special lights to mark their property, and they're beautiful. And I think that that's an exception to all of this. If they have a large project, they want to do special lights.
Thank you, Mr. Earnhardt, and Mr. Gillis.
Just one other brief comment is when it comes to the pushback and the further discussion, and if FPL is saying, but we've already sourced these poles, I would suggest that if we could be lucky enough to have them even remove the ones that they've already put around the golf course, which is what I would have suggested had I spoken. Those poles, there's going to be a lot of labor and a lot of money wasted pulling them down, but those same poles can be repurposed any place in the county, right? FPL has a huge place, so they can be reused.
Thank you, Mr. Aaron. Mr. Gillis.
Thank you.
Okay, so the city plan, that designation, I thought it included lamp posts. So I would ask if you could look into that. I remember something in there about distinctive landscape features, including lamp posts. I don't have it with me, obviously, but if that was mentioned in there, then it seems that they would have been included. So maybe it would be a different perspective then. So please check on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gillis. And I think Mr. Maxwell mentioned it during the meeting, and that particular item about what is a character-defining element of the master plan. Mr. Maxwell. And I think everyone's had a chance to speak who wanted to, so Mr. Maxwell, and then if you want to reread a resolution one at a time, we can think about it and see if we vote it forward.
Very good, Mr. Chair. I agree with all of your comments. I mean, they're not only right on, but what's really important is, A, we have a process, okay? Every time that there's an improvement to the street, and I will bring your attention to, was it 2 meetings ago, where we reviewed changes to the historic Granada Coral Way Circle. And previously, we also looked at a city-requested county improvement to create a circle at Anderson and Coral Way, of which this board denied. So if streets, changes to the streets are brought to us, the streetlights are just as elemental as anything else. Okay, just like Ms. Rolando said, we have pink sidewalks, and that's our standard. I have taken the liberty of asking the Historic Preservation Office to provide the previous 1980s, 1990s files to us, okay, so that we can have the opportunity to review what occurred, what was chosen, and the process that was taken. Any process that we would do now, if this is remanded back to us as requested, we would have an open public hearing that would be noticed to the entire public so that people could speak. The other aspect is, and this has been told to me, well, many people like this. I agree. My preference about things is not necessarily what is true and correct, but this is not about what I like or what any one individual or several individuals like. It's about doing what is right, proper, and correct for our city to maintain its character and its landscape and its unique urban design. So that's why I brought this up. And I would, as a citizen, I would encourage all of you, if you have the opportunity, to likewise have your voice made known.
Could you reread the resolution, please?
Yes. I'm going to add align to the beginning of the resolution, and I'm going to ask that the city attorney and Ms. Pernis help frame this, the opening of it a little bit. To resolve to fully stop all changes now in progress on the streetlights in all areas of the city, period. To delegate to the Historic Preservation Board, in collaboration with the Landmarks Preservation Board, supported by City Historic Preservation staff and Public Works, to research and recommend to the Commission a city standard streetlight based upon historically accurate documentation known to have been installed during the city's development during the 1920s, and to recommend those areas of the city where said street lighting shall be located and maintained. That would be resolution number 1.
Can I offer a friendly amendment as to define the silver street lights, not all street lights, because there may be black street lights that are being replaced with new street lights?
Yes, and where would you?
That's your original, the first sentence that you were saying, instead of all street lights.
I understand that, Mr. Maxwell. If that change is acceptable to you, to fully
Yes.
stop all changes in progress to existing silver streetlights.
Yes, ma'am, that's acceptable.
Any thoughts or questions, additions to the resolution? Let's read the second one and vote them both in.
The second resolution really is about when the commission would accept, and if it would accept the report, that upon receipt of the Historic Preservation Board, Landmarks Preservation Board report on city standard streetlights, to adopt as the city standard streetlight, the recommended streetlight per all areas recommended by the parties, the Historic Preservation Board and the Landmarks Preservation Board.
Can we just fold that into the initial? Can that be one? Yeah, that could be one resolution.
Can incorporate the two together into one resolution for the city commission's consideration.
Sure, that can be one.
Yeah.
That's fine with me.
Just a moment of clarification, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair. The current city streetlights are not owned by the city. They are owned and maintained by FPL. We pay through a tariff program, not all of them, but many of the ones that we're discussing. So is this recommendation for the city to research and recommend a city-owned and maintained light, or with FPL come to some selection or agreement with FPL? Because, I think that recommendation is a very different one, which way you go to the city commission. So I just want to make sure that it's clear.
Ms. City Attorney, the present streetlights that are being removed are owned by FP&L. The FP&L installed those streetlights. So there is no intent for the city to own or operate or pay additional for the replacement streetlights.
So my understanding is that this would have to be, the selection would have to be one that would also be acceptable to FP&L.
To be negotiated with FP&L.
Yeah, at some point, yes, it would have to be acceptable to them.
We've spoken with them, and, many of the executives are surprised that this even occurred.
Thank you, Mr. Maxwell. And the term acceptable FP&L, I think there was an existing contract to be potentially renegotiated, which would, yes, mean they would have to agree.
Yes.
Any thoughts or comments on the resolution? Does anybody, how do we have a resolution? Do we have a motion for that resolution, Mr. Maxwell?
It would be a motion on the resolution. Can should I make the
I think
motion?
you should move it.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the resolution as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gillis. Any discussion? My discussion is, this is an incredibly complicated item. We all know it is. We have asked staff to come back at the next meeting in January, both Historic Preservation and Public Works, to have further clarification based on all the information that we requested. But it is timely, and I think that a resolution from this board to the City Commission would be helpful. So if we can call the roll, please.
Mr. Maxwell?
Yes.
Mr. Gillis?
Yes.
Mr. Ehrenhaft?
Yes.
Mr. Durana?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Rolando?
Yes.
Ms. Spain?
Yes.
Mr. Garcia Ponce?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Maxwell.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia-Ponce. I'm going to have to excuse myself, ladies and gentlemen. I have another engagement since we moved this. I appreciate all of you looking at this and for your input and moreover for your support. Thank
Thank
you
you.
all. And look forward to seeing you later.
And since we're talking about absences, can we have an excused absence request for Ms. Dene? Can we get that approved before you go? Any,
That was for travel, correct?
huh?
That was for travel.
Yes, and
an
we
excuse.
scheduled the meeting.
Okay. Move to approve Ms. Dune's absence is excused.
Is there a second? Second by Ms. Rolando. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Maxwell.
Thank you, Mr.
Next, COA item, case file, COA SP 2023-026, an application for the issuance of a special certificate of appropriateness for the property at 155 Cocoa Plum Road, a local historic landmark legally described as Lot 69 and 70, Block 4, Coral Gables, Biscayne Bay Section Part 1, Plat B, according to the plat thereof as recorded in Plat Book 25 at page 50 of the Public Records of Miami-Dade County, Florida. The application requests design approval for additions and alterations to the residence and auxiliary structure and site work.
Thank you.
Ms. Counts.
Okay. Swear I did not do that. Can you bring the PowerPoint back up, please? So for the control room, the remote control isn't working for the PowerPoint. Let's try it again.
Doesn't seem to be the actual PowerPoint, it's still.
The reflections blinding me.
Sorry.
I mean, it was a PDF, so I'm not really sure why it's not the PowerPoint. and it's a PDF.
No, this is mine. Oh, you have one, so there's an extra. That's okay. I just. It's okay.
Can I just say next to you? Does that work? So you leave it on this one. This is a location map of the property in question, 155 Cocoa Plum. It was built in 1928, designed by Waldron Segrin. It's one of the very few historic homes we have that far down south and in the Biscayne Bay section. So it is unique in that respect, and it's the only one by that architect. The work proposed in the application consists of two additions to the residence. The first is a 1 and 2 story addition to the north, consisting of a 1-car garage, laundry, bedroom, suite, and kitchen on the first floor, and a master bathroom with outdoor terrace on the second floor. The second addition at the southeast corner of the home consists of a covered terrace and loggia on the first floor, and a second floor uncovered roof deck. To accommodate the 2-story addition, a very small 1-story addition that was built in circa 1961 will be removed. And for the covered terrace addition, some exterior steps will be removed, and there's a very substantial change in grade from the house to the yard will occur within that terrace area. At the auxiliary structure, the proposal includes window and door locations to be modified, an exterior non-original staircase to be removed, and interior modeling. Please note that no original drawings and very few photographs of this structure, which has been legally converted into living space. Site work includes modification of the existing coral rock wall, not original, to accommodate the new driveway, new hardscape, including driveway, auto court, pool deck, site fencing and gates, relocation of mechanical equipment and generator, and landscaping. I did want to clarify something for you. The Board of Architects did review and approve this proposal in October after one review. I wrote multiple reviews. That was wrong. There was a previous iteration of this property done for a previous owner by a previous architect that went to Board of Architects so many times and never got anywhere. So with this application, it was approved, reviewed with no comments one time. We do have staff conditions that we would like incorporated into the motion for approval, and we do recommend that approval. If you can forward it, there we go. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the applicant wish to present or speak?
Thank you, Kara. My name is Anna Alvarez. I'm the architect. I'm joined here by my partner, Frank Martinez, and the owners, Nick and Kimberly Martinez. I just wanted to point out, I know Kara did a very thorough presentation, and you guys must be tired, but I just wanted to point out this is one of the few waterfront properties that are historic and below flood, and the owners are really making an effort to bring it back to its original glory and also introduce some of the very reasonable program they were asking for. That auxiliary structure is, I guess it's been through many changes over its lifetime, but it is almost 5 feet below flood level. But in talking to staff, they told us, it should be kept. So, in order to make it useful for the site, we introduced different openings so that it somehow blends with that rear terrace. So right now, the house has no real program that where one can appreciate the waterfront and that rear yard. It was just, there are no porches, no outdoor kind of covered spaces. So I'll stop there unless you want me to, unless you have any questions. Oh, okay.
Anna, can you drop the microphone a little bit too? Thank you. There it is. There it is.
Yeah, move forward, maybe. We, the house had, what seemed to be a very nice balconette condition facing the east side. And
Anna?
that's being restored. Oh, that's being restored. Right now it has kind of oversized, non-original balusters, so we're bringing it back to the thin pickets. The house had windows that weren't original. It's not part of this proposal, but we helped the owners a few months ago, and that's already made a big impact on the house. So the existing photos already reflect that. You can maybe skip to the elevations.
On the record, Frank.
So we'll only flip through these, but in the cream color is existing, and then with the pink poche are parts that are additions that are being made to the house.
Thank you.
So the house in the designation report is described as Mediterranean revival, but it has all these kind of Italianate elements. So the addition is different from the house in that it's much more reduced. We are keeping the roof slope and the roof lines, but with a different eave and rafter condition, which Kara pointed out would be nice to develop, as part of her comments, which we're happy to do. And the house has these, elaborate balusters. So we're introducing on the parapets, we're introducing flat recessed panels on the parapets. And the windows in the house have stucco surrounds, and in some cases, transoms. So we're actually simplifying that further on the addition. So there's an effort to scale the project down as towards the front and to the neighbors, so that the second story volume is always pushed back and away from the property lines. So it gives you more of a picturesque, strategy which I think is in keeping with the composition the house has already. And then those are, on the lower part of the screen, you can see the balconies that are being restored.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions from the board to staff or the applicant?
Yes, please.
Mr. Gillis?
Okay, the garage addition, just to confirm, because it's difficult to see on the front page, but I'm looking at sheet A 2.5. What is the, it looks like it's almost covered by this wall on the street view on the bird's eye page. Looks like there's some type, is that correct?
There's an existing wall. It's not original, Sarah mentioned. It's a very nice coral wall.
Ms. Alvarez, can you speak into the microphone, please?
So we're going to be modifying the opening just to provide the proper access to the garage.
Okay.
But that does help with that layering effect. So the garage is set back and you get the wall in the foreground.
Okay.
We have
and
some pictures of it if you want.
The height of the addition, the second story portion of the proposed addition, the height of that is not the same height as the other aspect on the far right of the home, is that correct?
What page are you looking at?
That's also, well, I'm comparing the photo on the front page where it looks a little bit lower, and also on the bird's eye view, A 2.5, that it looks like that roof is a little bit lower than the original elevation of the home.
Here? It is lower
Okay.
because the body is thinner than the
It
portion that's a
differentiates,
carpet.
so I like
Yes.
that, because we had one
Yes.
recently that I couldn't support because it wasn't differentiated enough, but at least that's a little bit. And then also on the bird's eye page, there aren't rafter tails shown on the addition. So, I mean, rather than do a different rafter tail, just eliminate them.
So the majority of the house, sorry. The majority of the house of the addition does not have the added rafter tails. There's a small section in the front and the back that do, and they are differentiated. They will be.
You look at page 2.0.
2.0. Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
So when adding to the portions that have rafters, and the rafters are very unique, actually, we can pull up a
That's
photo
why-
on the iPad.
Why try to trick the eye, though? I would just say leave them out completely if it were up to me, and let the eye focus on the rafter tails on the original house, and the addition shouldn't have that, would be my recommendation, but I'm one out of however many people are here. It's a minor detail, but I've seen that throughout the Gables when they try to do different rafter tails, and it's busier, it takes away from the beauty of the original ones, even though it's a very simplistic feature. It would be one less thing you'd have to do. It's not a major thing, I just,
From a building standpoint, to get the roof line to meet at the eave, you need that projection, don't you?
Yes.
okay, that's fine.
It's selective in areas where, from a practical point of view,
Mr. Martinez, can you speak into the microphone?
it was just strategic where at certain portions to maintain that continuity and line of sight. And then you notice that in other parts where we then move away from that, then we're actually reducing it further.
I see that on the very far left part, it has kind of like a coping or something, a band.
Yes.
But couldn't that be done the whole way across rather than part rafter tails and part?
So we could accomplish that in like that telescoping condition that we proposing, but when the two roofs meet, you really want that roof line to continue. If not, you end up, it doesn't look deliberate, you know, I don't know.
In the front door, there was no way, I mean, is the door that's there now, isn't that original?
That door that's there now, no, that was permitted separately. It was
front-
done recently, it's an impact.
Oh, okay. That was it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gillis. Any other questions? Mr. Silva?
I think it's a beautiful project, and I think for the substantial square footage you're adding, I think it really respects the original residents. You can really see in the renderings how it's pulled away, and the existing residence takes primacy on the side. I really appreciate that. I just had a quick question on the staff conditions. Number
Yes.
one, do you take exception to any of them?
No, we're in agreement.
And then there was one staff condition that said to eliminate the transoms from the windows at the addition, but I don't see any transoms.
It's
So
in
they
the-
already eliminated?
It's in the first floor bedroom.
So it's just
It's
one
on
location?
2.2. I think
Okay.
it's, yes. And we agree with the comment. We had done that in other places in the addition.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Silva. Any other questions for applicant or staff?
So how will this Gothic window be appreciated now? That's my other thing, because it seems like that's an open space right now, so from the outside, you could really appreciate that. It's in the original drawings on A6.1. I see that also on the bird's eye. It looks like it's going to be between the garage and the main house, or the garage and the original portion of the house.
Yes, it'll be overlooking the courtyard now.
Okay.
So it's currently covered with plaster, it seems. So we'll introduce glass as a transom there.
Okay, because there was no awning under that before.
No what?
There was no awning under the Gothic window. But now I see on the proposed drawings that there is, and I was just wondering if that will, to me, that's one of the coolest elements of the house. On the bird's eye sheet, A2.5, underneath that window, there's now kind of like a,
There's an existing awning.
Yeah, it's existing.
that's
It's existing.
existing? It wasn't on
There's
the original
three.
drawing though, but okay.
I noticed that too. So there are three. There's one over the front door, one over
Okay.
the balcony in the front, and then that third one. They're all very similar.
Okay.
And on the original drawings, the little that we have, there are places where during construction, I believe the architect made changes to the house, yeah. So that's why we wanted to show them all to you, but
Thank you. Any additional questions for the applicant or staff? All right, let's take it to public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak in favor or in opposition to this case? Okay. Anybody on Zoom? Okay, closing public hearing, bring back to the board. Any discussion, or does anybody want to make a motion?
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the special certificate of appropriateness for the property located at 155 Cocoa Plum Road, a local historic landmark, to include the staff conditions 1 through 10 in the staff report,
And I want to do the second one, approve this.
and approve the issuance of a special certificate. Okay, let me start over. I make a motion to approve with conditions 1 through 10 noted above in the staff report, the design proposal for an addition to the residence and site work on the property located at 155 Cocoa Plum Road, and approve the issuance of a special certificate of appropriateness with the conditions noted above.
Thank you, Mr. Gillis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Rolando. Discussion, I had the same thought that Mr. Gillis had, and I think Kara had with the rafters.
Oh, the rafters.
And I understand you're going to work something out with Kara, and I'm sure it'll be fine, but it's interesting that, just wanted to state for the record that it was something that was noticeable. Can we call the roll?
Mr. Gillis,
Yes.
Ms. Rolando,
Yes.
Mr. Ehrenhaft,
Yes.
Mr. Durana,
Yes.
Mr. Silva,
Yes.
Ms. Spain,
Yes.
and Mr. Garcia Ponce.
Yes, congratulations. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, last item of today, case file COA SP 2023-028, an application for the issuance of a special certificate of appropriateness for the property at 927 Coral Way, a contributing resource within the Coral Way Historic District, legally described as the west 17 feet of Lot 4 and all of Lots 5 and 6, Block 35, Peacock's re-subdivision of Block 35, Section B, according to the plat thereof, as recorded in Plat Book 35, at page 60 of the Public Records of Miami-Dade County, Florida. The application requests design approval for an addition to the residence, gazebo addition, and site work. Ms. Pennas.
So in 2017, the Coral Way Historic District was listed as the Coral Gables Register of Historic Places. The residence at 927 Coral Way is considered a contributing resource within the Coral Way Historic District. The application requests design approval for site improvements, new pool, gazebo, and trellis at the rear yard. I do want to correct a typo in the staff observations. The property is not the Algardi applique property. It is 927 Coral Way. The application before the board requests approval for the construction of a gazebo, trellis, and pool. The new structure is located at the northwest corner of the rear yard and is minimally visible from the street. The open trellis connects the new gazebo to a new single-door opening at the rear elevation of the house. The door will be installed to replace an existing window. The trellis and gazebo materials include wood roof elements, smooth stucco columns with decorative brick base, and barrel tile roof. Staff finds that the proposed work will not impact the historic district in a negative way and recommends approval. The property owners are here and I believe if they have any objection or want to answer any questions.
Sure. Do you guys want to say anything? You want to wait for questions? Name and address, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Alejandro Safia, the property owner, here to answer any questions. And the improvements that we're making are really to, enjoy the house a little bit more. And, we don't believe it'll materially affect or impact the house itself. Everything is in the back, but it will improve our quality of life and our enjoyment of the property, and so that's why we're seeking approval for that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and you can answer any questions. And the gentleman who is the architect, I believe he's on Zoom as well. And he's available to answer any questions if the board has any questions.
Did you buy the property?
Perfect.
What year did you buy the property?
We bought it about 1.5 years ago.
Okay.
Yep.
I saw it probably about 8 years ago, so that was two owners ago, but love the house.
Yeah, no, it's a great house. It's got, great lighting to it and the openness. And, yeah, we really enjoy the property and the Gables, and we love it. And, the area is great. And, we want to make the additions to, go from there to the grave, hopefully.
Does anybody have any questions for the applicant or the owner? Anything? I mean, it's hardly visible from the street, so. All right. Any public comment on the item? Open to public comment. Anybody wish to speak in favor or in opposition of this item? We're in public comment. Okay, closing the public comment, bring back to the board. Any discussion on the item? Does anybody wish to make a motion on the item? How about some discussion?
Going once, going twice. I'm happy to make a motion. Does the architect want to say anything?
No.
Or we just, okay, never mind. All right. I'd like to make a motion to approve the design proposal for site improvements, a new gazebo, and trellis addition for the property located at 927 Coral Way, a contributing resource within the Coral Way Historic District, and approve a certificate of appropriateness.
Thank you, Ms. Spain. Is there a second?
There's no certificate, is there?
No, there's no COA. I didn't see it.
Oh, well, there should be a COA, so she's right.
So
She's got the
Ms.
motion
Spain
right.
is correct.
We have an
Just ad-libbing here. I didn't see it, but I just added it.
She has it memorized at this point.
Ms. Rolando, is there a second?
Yes, a second to both.
Second by Ms. Rolando. Any further discussion? Let's call the roll.
Miss Spain,
Yes.
Miss Rolando.
Yes.
Mr. Ehrenhaft,
Yes.
Mr. Durana,
Yes.
Mr. Gillis,
Yes.
Mr. Silva,
Yes.
and Mr. Garcia Ponce.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Have a good holiday, everybody.
Same to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Perenas. Any board items, city commission, city project updates?
A couple things. Obviously, you have your iPads in front of you. Some of you are using them, some of you are not. But they will be the regular, use for the meetings. You will no longer be getting paper packets. You'll always get a link. You could always download and print things that you like. But for January, we do have packages because they had been already submitted. But just maybe if you don't want to take it home, we'll take them back today and then we'll bring them to the next meeting and send a link in advance. And then any questions you have, you could let me know. For the public comment, as you saw, if we get them in advance of the meeting, I'll try to circulate them before. At this time, I was receiving them yesterday, so we'll always try to do that. And then if not, it'll be at the meeting that we present and state who's they're from and all of that, and then amount we've received. For commission items, just to confirm the motion that was made earlier about the streetlights, as I was speaking to Mr. Maximo, he confirmed that he would be able to present it at the commission meeting. Typically, the board would assign someone to present it, but I think we skipped that by accident. But he said that he would be available. The meeting is on January 9th, and he asks that anyone on behalf, that wants to come to the board to support, he would appreciate that.
Ms. Piernas, if you don't mind, I might ask just a quick vote for you all to designate Mr. Maxwell to appear on your behalf, if that's all right with the chair.
So moved. Yeah.
No, so this is really Mr. Maxwell's passion item, but it really should be the chair, but I'm happy to make the motion. I'm happy to make the motion to have Mr. Maxwell present before the Historic Preservation Board. Is there a second? Mr. Gillis?
Before the commission. though.
Before the commission, what did I say?
Historic Preservation Board.
Before the commission. Second by Ms. Rolando. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Thank you.
Thank you. Another commission item is we did receive a timely appeal for the 5005 Hammock Park Drive property that we heard last month. It's the designation for the Alfred Browning Parker House. Right now, they're tentatively scheduled for the second meeting in January, but once we have a confirmed date, we will let you all know. And then the last thing is our meeting dates for 2024. The only issue that we saw, we'll be having our regular meetings the third Wednesday of the month. On June 19th, the city is closed, so we will have to work with the clerk to figure out whether or not we do the week ahead or the week after, or if you have a preference just to do the following Thursday, the 20th.
What is the holiday?
Juneteenth.
Oh, Juneteenth, yeah.
Do we
You might not have a preference based off the calendar, but
was that provided to us?
no, we're still working on, because they just confirmed the dates for city commission on Tuesday.
So my recommendation is let's approve the January meeting and take a look at the schedule in January.
Yes. So January 17th, we will see you all there.
Yes.
That was it for me.
Any old business from the board?
Yes.
Oh, wait, Ms. Couts.
Remind you guys, you should have gotten an invitation, but the Merrick House Holiday Open House is this Sunday from 2 to 5. Free, open to the public, has Santa, has carolers, festive time. House looks beautiful thanks to the garden club, so if you guys stop by.
Thank you. We have some old business. Mr. Gillis.
Yes, the two properties that I had asked about, 825 South Alhambra Circle and 9485 Old Cutler Lane.
I just wanted to make a comment. I was gonna ask about the-
I apologize. I had not had the opportunity to look at it for the designation. We had talked about If the commission, weren't we going to look into that with?
So there is a process in which this board can request that the historic preservation officer bring something to you all for designation.
Can
That we looked at briefly, and I'm happy to go over that, and if you give me 2 seconds here to pull that back up, but that's what we had discussed at the last meeting, what the process would be for that.
Yeah, I know it had been done, but not for a few years.
Okay.
But, we're getting to the point where, some of these properties just haven't come forward, and I haven't done the research because that's kind of what I was looking for the staff to do on
Okay.
some of these really key properties. So I'm happy to make a motion that needs to be done, or whatever the city attorney says the procedure would be.
Give me 2 minutes here, I'll pull up the provision.
Okay, what's the other item, Mr. Gillis? You have
Well, those
two?
were two properties, but that's
Same
the
issue.
While we're waiting, I'd like to make one comment. If, for those of you that missed the Villagers Home Tour, it was wonderful. And Kara's not in the room, but I know she put a lot of work into getting her home ready for it, and it was beautiful. I mean, the Christmas display was just amazing. And Alex, I can't tell you how cool your house is. I mean, I was so excited when you bought that house, which was an absolute wreck, and to see the transformation was just amazing. And so, really a treat, a great tour.
The Merrick House had, I think with the clicker, they got over 760 visitors that day. A lot of first timers that hadn't been to the house or had even knew it was there.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
It was great.
So Kara allowed 700 people in her home at one point today.
As we're waiting, anybody else have any old or new business? Okay, let's hold on for a second.
So I'm sorry, I'm just trying to go back over the proposals for designation may be submitted to the Historical Resources Department for recommendation to the Historic Preservation Board by the Board of Architects or any citizen or any city property owner. But I believe Mr. Gillis and I discussed a different provision, which I'm trying to find at the moment.
And we have received a few from Board of Architects the last few meetings.
Here it is, I'm sorry. Excuse me, Anna. This is section 8-104, designation procedures of the city code. It says the board may, on their own or upon the recommendation from staff or any citizen pursuant to subsection A1 of this section, direct staff to begin the designation process by preparing a designation report pursuant to subsection B of this section and any other standards the board may be deemed necessary, submitting this report to the procedures described herein and arranging for a public hearing before the Historic Preservation Board on this matter.
Thank you.
Upon their own recommendation.
That's what I would like to do, because 825 South Alhambra is one of the only Coral Rock building that I know of that hasn't been designated. And then 9485 Old Cutler Lane is, I understand, the address of the Arthur Vining Davis Observation Tower, or whatever the address is for that property.
So those are requests. Before we do that, I'm not ready to do that because I don't know these properties. So if it's, I'm signaling where I am. I would like to be able to take a look at these properties and maybe do this at the next meeting. Unless you want to do it on your own, you could do that whenever you'd like.
No, I had asked a few meetings ago if they could bring photos, but I don't. What I'm trying to figure out is if we need to make this here's my point, okay? Would you agree to this? Just because we move forward with the preliminary process does not mean this board would necessarily vote to approve it.
I understand completely. I'm just saying I don't know these properties, so I can't even take the first step. So I need to go take a look at it so that I could be more informed before I can come back at the next meeting. I'm not saying I won't. I'm just saying I don't know.
Okay, so could photos or information be sent out to us prior to the next meeting?
Yes, and if any of you are familiar with these and have information that want to share, that's always helpful too.
Mr. Earnhardt.
So you're suggesting that if we had the addresses, we could actually drive by and inform ourselves? Or does that get into the realm for me of only if I speak to somebody, but does it become ex parte, right?
No, I know what I think, but Madam City Attorney.
I would suggest you not do that. A special site visit for consideration is something that would be considered an ex parte communication in some situations. So I would advise you to not to do that.
And I believe the one in Old Cutler it's in their backyard.
You could see it.
I was like, so please don't.
Right.
Yeah.
I think after one of the hurricanes, it was kind of visible from one angle, but now
depending on the vegetation.
No, I don't think it can be seen anymore.
I'd like to clarify with the city attorney is not a group visit, but if I go, I can just state it for the record.
Either way, I still think it's a potential issue of an ex parte communication, a site visit. Now, if you happen to drive by a house every day on your way, we're not telling you you can't drive that way anymore, but a specialized visit that you take with the sole purpose of looking at something that may come before you for designation is problematic.
I had a long discussion at at a National Trust meeting about that.
I've heard this many times. I'm done. Yeah. Mr. Silva.
It's okay, the preservation
Mr.
officer
Mr.
said
Silva,
that
Mr. Silva.
she would
Just
send a
just
photo.
had a question, Mr. Gillis, to piggyback on your concept. So as we all saw, the homes that are at risk now, where we, like, if a demolition request came for one of those homes, it would come before us, right? The ones that would not, or any home that's in a flood zone, right? Is there a way to cross-reference?
I asked about that.
Yeah,
and This one is not.
This one isn't in one of the high flood zones.
No, I know that one in
So
particular is
wait, this
not.
is a separate question. So Mr. Silva, we did make that request of the previous historic preservation officer, and we haven't received anything yet.
Can you repeat that request? Because I am not him.
I guess the request would be, if I'm making it, the request would be to research historically significant or homes that could be historically significant in flood zones, right? Those are the homes that today would require owner consent to designate, right?
And it was, the conversation was after the law that the state passed. It was that meeting.
And it's just to be clear, it's not all flood zones, it's specific ones, and
Right.
yeah, so just to be clear, though, yeah.
And so, Ms. Brenna, so Mr. Gillis had requested some photos of these two properties for the next meeting. Is that something that you can try to provide? That's not ex parte, correct, Madam City Attorney?
That should be fine, that's presented to all of you as an initial matter, and I think that's done in public, that should be fine.
Would be appreciated.
If we can get photos of it, yes.
Mr. Ehrenhaft.
I do recall there was one property, Donna, if you would remind me, we had a property that was on Santa Maria, and to get around some of the issues, we actually did a site visit where the entire board was invited with a specific time period.
That was on
to-
Cutler.
Oh, that was
No,
on
Granada.
Granada.
That was on Granada.
Did that site visit have to do with getting around ex parte stuff, or was it?
We also the house on Country Club Prado, but we staggered our visits.
Right.
So that no two members of the board would be there at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
There are various considerations, Mr. Ehrenhaft, that have to do with, you all volunteer for this, and the Sunshine Law doesn't make it easy for you all to do your jobs, and I think we appreciate that. But there's various considerations with Sunshine Law that may run up against issues of ex parte communications, or communications that happen outside of this deliberative body. So when you all are doing something outside of the sunshine, it's different necessarily, the same and different. There's sort of two things to consider there. But a site visit taken for the sole purpose of viewing something that is likely to come before you is likely to be an ex parte communication, as would multiple people visiting a site at one point be a sunshine law issue. So multiple considerations there. And again, I understand it really handcuffs you all, but I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't warn you.
The time that he's talking about, though, it was advertised. We had a
Yes.
tape recorder there.
Yes,
No one
and
said
so
anything.
it is certainly possible for this body to go on a site visit or have a meeting outside of
It was
here,
impossible.
But it's very difficult. It is very difficult, but it is something that does happen.
So we have a request of staff to bring photographs of these two addresses to the next meeting, please.
Or to provide it ahead with the agenda, but also to present at the meeting. please.
That would be ideal.
Thank you.
I did remember one other thing, board orientation. So we're going to hope to schedule board orientation between January and February, the January meeting and February meeting.
Thank you. That's fantastic. Any additional old business, new business, or any other business? Great. Motion to adjourn? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay. Moved by Ms. Spain, approved Mr. Gillis. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Meeting is adjourned at 6 o'clock.
Thank you.
So we leave the iPads here?
So if you want to keep your iPad, you have to sign the form. If you don't want to sign the form, then
I'm good.
I used the form as my sign on my dashboard to not get a ticket. To don't ticket me.
Thanks, Dad.
who else wants to give you?
I think that's what's happening. Because the catalog was different because they're LEDs.
I forced myself to use it because I have this stuff printed too.
I like it, I just don't want to take it home because.
Yeah, and what I did was I highlighted what I was saying.
This is the catalog that Hermes is looking at right now.
It works. I mean, I'll bring a notepad if I want to take some, like.
Yeah,
real
sometimes
notes,
it's
but-
just easier to.
So it's a much different catalog. And so it's a much smaller catalog.
But either way.
These are post ones, so I'm going to show you the post ones.